Hey guys! So the tutorial I will be showing is for a quick change pocket or transformation pocket. This is used for quick change wigs when you will start off wearing what appears to be a short wig and it will turn long suddenly, or be long and turn short. I'm only going to show the short to turn long version here because specifically I'm showing you how to create the pocket, how to install it, and from there, you can do whatever you want with it. It's actually a really neat trick if you need to hide something in your wig that you don't want to show, but specifically this is so that you can have whatever's inside come out later. In this particular example, I will be using two very different colors of fiber for the base wig versus the transformation packet contents themselves. Normally, you would want to have identical colors of the two because you'd want it to blend. But I really want you guys to be able to see where the transformation takes place in this, and that's why we're using very contrasting colors. So let's get started. The first step will be to open up the back of your base wigs. In this particular one, I'm having the transformation start at the ear line down, so I've only cut up this far. You can go further up, which will create a larger packet. That also means you have to create a larger masking area later, so that's going to be up to you. I have clipped just the bands along this weft. It's important that you have to leave the ear flaps and the back elastic intact, otherwise you're going to lose your structure. Now the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the wefts along the bottom and put them aside. While these can be used to mask, I want to have more control over the way that they lay. And remember, even if you go, hey, I might need these later, if you cut them off, you can always sew them back on. So don't be afraid to cut them off. Just keep the wefts intact. I'm also cutting the tag out too because nothing says, hey, I'm wearing a wig, like a big black tag in the back of all your nice light colored fiber. Now that we have a nice clean view of the back, we can start to place our pocket. I'm using some bridal lace to fill this in, and what that is going to do is cover the back so that the material contained within the pocket doesn't get mixed in with your own hair or with the wig cap. So when you're selecting your piece of fabric, make sure that you're getting something with a little bit of flex and that isn't going to grab too much. That's why I've got this nice soft bridal lace. You're going to connect directly to the bottom band and edges all the way to the ear flap. But when you get to the top, you need to make sure you have sufficient overlap. This is what creates the actual pocket. When I get to the line at the top here, I need to make sure that I have enough room to go up and then double back to create the pocket itself. Depending on how much you're trying to hold inside of the pocket, this can be anywhere from 2 inches deep to all the way to the top, which is about 6 inches. In this particular case, I'm going to make mine about 2 to 3 inches deep. Now I've gone ahead and attached it to the bottom here, just using a whip stitch along the edge, and you'll notice that it looks kind of baggy, like a bridal veil. But that's okay, because when we bring it up, we can make adjustments to make it tighter to the head just by pinching the lace together, like that, and just stitching along. And that way you can match the contour of the head a little better. Now that we have this bottom edge attached, you see it is actually attached to the insides of the ear flaps as well. What we're going to do is find the middle of our piece at the bottom and bring it up to the middle of where it's going to be up here, which luckily there happens to be a band here so I can mark this. And we're going to go ahead and pin it along the edge of the band so that you know where it needs to attach. Now keep in mind, because this is a pocket just like a pocket with garments, even though it's attached to the edge here, the rest will be pushed up inside. So instead of trying to do something crazy like pushing it up and folding it back and then sewing, you just sew to the edge this way, and then when you have it all sewn in place, you tuck it up. So now we have our pocket sewn on the top and the bottom. And we still have loose on the edges here. That's okay, we're going to leave that for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to tuck our material up inside as far as we can. Make sure to get around the ear flaps as well. Until you can feel that there is no more give and it cannot go up any further. Then you want to bring your line back down. you can see, it's tightened up quite a bit. Now we got to deal with this fun stuff over here. And for that, it's pretty simple. We're actually just going to pinch it together at the ear flap and stitch it tightly together, snip off the excess, and just tuck it in. So once you've got that all tucked in, you want to go back and look around your edges, see if you have any extra, and go ahead and trim that off. So what we need to do next is create a cover to go over the pocket area. The longer transformation fiber will be inside the pocket area, but if there's nothing holding it in, it's just going to spill out. There are two types of covers you can make. You can make a breakaway cover, which is held in place by 4 snaps or Velcro, depending on what you want to use, and that, just like it sounds like, will break away, allowing the transformation pocket to open. However, that's best used when you are in a stage area where you have the ability to walk off stage, walk on stage, or walk behind something, so people don't see you pulling this off, because then you have to do something with that cover. So what we're going to do with this one instead is we're going to create a hinged cover, which merely opens like this, allowing the pocket contents to come out, but still has the exterior down towards the bottom. To attach my cover, I'll be using these clear sew-on snaps, and I'm going to sew them directly onto the band up here, making sure not to sew into the pocket itself, but just onto the band here, 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 and here. And that'll give me 4 places that it's going to tear away, but still keep it in place when it's on. When it comes down, it'll be hanging down at about this point. Now that I've sewn my snaps on, I went ahead and put a pin in there so I can see them more clearly. They're over here on the sides. What I'm going to do is put on my cover piece, and I made sure that it's big enough to just overlap around there, and I'm going to mark my edges for where I want to cut. And just do that using a Sharpie in a color slightly darker than what you're using, so you don't make it too obvious. I'm going to put a little X where each of my pins is, and then I'm going to trace the outside shape so I know where to cut. So once you have your cover piece trimmed, you can go ahead and pin it on there and do any final adjustments you need to do to get it to be more or less an exact match to the area that is exposed. You can have a little bit of overlap, that's okay, and you definitely need to have overlap where there's snaps, because you need something to be able to sew onto with your top snap that's going to be in the underside of this cover. Now we're not going to sew it while it's on here, because there's too big of a chance it's going to get caught in the pocket itself. So instead, just eyeball it, see what you need to do, trim if necessary, and then we're going to go back and just whip stitch around that to kind of make a flat hemmed edge all the way around. So once you have your cover done, you just want to verify that it is going to overlap all of your snaps. You don't want it to not do that, or you won't have anything to sew onto. So I've got my 2 up here and the 2 on the sides. I might end up putting in more depending on how it feels when I pull it away. As you install your snaps, go ahead and test them every once in a while to make sure that they're gripping the right amount. You want them to hold on because they need to be able to hold the cover in place, but if they're in too hard and you have to pull too hard to get them out, you're going to end up yanking your wig clean off your head. So if they feel like they've got too much resistance, open them up, take a nail file, and round down the peg on the snap. Go back in, try it again, and keep doing this until it feels like it's holding on just a little bit, but not so much that you're going to have to cleanly take your wig off your head. So now I've got my snaps adjusted the way I want, it is time to cover the cover, and I'm going to use that piece I cut off from the back, put it right back on. You do need to pay attention to the way that these bend, because now that this shape is a little wider, I keep these straight, make sure these line up too though, so that when they come to the ear flap they're not hanging down at a weird angle like that. So let's go. Now that I have my cover covered, I've decided I want to do the breakaway instead of the hinge version because I think it's going to work better for this style. So I still have the 2 snaps up top. I'm going to have to add some at the bottom now too as well. But right now, if it just breaks away, it's hanging free at the bottom. It looks like this. So you see, it's going to expose the pocket area, which is underneath. And all the contents of the pocket will actually cover this, so I'm not worried about covering this itself. Here's what I'll be loading into my pocket. This is all wefts that have been pre-dyed, and at the top of each one they've been folded over and sewn. So each of these is anywhere from 3 to 5 wefts deep. That'll give me the maximum amount of thickness without having to take up a lot of space vertically. I've temporarily loaded the colors into the pocket just by stuffing them, tucking them up in there. So they're just sitting inside right now. This gives me an opportunity to look around the edges, see if there's anywhere that things are going to be exposed, if I need to modify anything. When I actually go to attach them in, they will be sewn to the inside of the pocket. And we'll do that by actually flipping the wig inside out. Now, as we discussed before, I'm using very contrasting colors with this just so you can clearly see where the difference is. I'm also not going to greatly change the style of these two so that you can see where the difference is. If we were blending this, if we wanted it to look like it was all the same, of course, the same color would be a good start, but also you want to make sure that your styles are the same. So this is very straight fiber. I am going to curl it a little bit, but not as intensely as this because I'm going for a cloud and rainbow effect. If I wanted to blend it more effectively, what I would do is straighten the entire thing, then style it all together, then tuck the contents back up into the pocket again. Now that this is inside out, you can see the pocket. At first it just looks like it's the back of the wig, but you see there's this extra area right here where it forms a small band. This is where you're going to be attaching the fiber on the inside. You're going to take your pieces, stick them into the pocket, and stitch along that fold line from this side. Here now you can see the fiber has been rolled up and placed into the pocket. This is the cover right here, and this is the back of the pocket, the inside of the wig. So that's contained in there. And I'm going to snap it in place in these two spots, and then it is loaded and ready to wear. So we did this right. We should have a puffy little cloud that barfs out a rainbow.